and I'm delighted to welcome Jess Phillips MP, Parliamentary Under Secretary of State or Minister for Safeguarding and Violence Against Women and Girls. Jess first entered Parliament in the 2015 general election and was appointed to her current role as Minister for Safeguarding following the election in 2024. Before becoming an MP, Jess worked for Women's Aid in West Midlands, developing services for victims of domestic abuse, sexual violence, and human trafficking and exploitation. And she's a best-selling author, including the book Let's Be Honest, Truth, Lies and Politics. Now, Jess has been a fantastic supporter of Hourglass for years, and we are delighted that you're joining us today, especially with the Violence Against Women and Girls strategy so close. So welcome, Jess. And over to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I hope you can all hear me.
We can.
You can, okay. So I'm sat in my office in the Home Office, and frankly, the technology has already failed me a bit today. And also, sorry that the light is behind me, so I could look a little bit like I'm on Crime Watch. I'm glad that you're all having a good conference, and I have not signed any oath, nor do I look at polling, as you might imagine. But it is a real honour to join you today at the Safer Ageing Summit. And a massive thank you to Hourglass for inviting me to attend and for the tireless work that they do to support older victims of abuse. I have seen firsthand the greater vulnerabilities and additional barriers to seeking support that older victims face, and I recognise how vital it is that we address these head on. For many older people, years, even decades of abuse can lead to a sense of total hopelessness. Some feel trapped, fearing that speaking out could criminalise their own children or life partner, even when they desperately need help. We know that older people can be especially vulnerable to certain types of abuse, such as economic abuse, whether it's having their pension or savings controlled, being pressured into financial decisions, or losing access to their own money. And as technology becomes more central to our everyday lives, we're also seeing new ways it can be misused. Older victims being tracked, monitored, or cut off from communication by those that they rely on. These are real and growing threats, and we need to respond with support that's tailored to their needs. Everyone should have the right to freedom to live safely and to be free from fear. And we need a whole society approach to tackling violence against women and girls, protecting victims and targeting perpetrators. And I'd like to take a moment to talk about the work already underway in this space. In May, we announced a 19.9, I don't know why I don't just say 20 million, 19.9 investment this year to provide vital support to victims of violence against women and girls and raise awareness of the subject, and to fund projects across the country aimed at preventing these horrific crimes. This included an uplift in funding for Hourglass to recognise the support and the critical work that you do to support older victims through your 24/7 helpline and one-to-one advocacy work with victims. In April, we launched the new National Centre for Violence Against Women and Girls and Public Protection, backed by a £13 million investment this year. The centre provides coordinated national leadership within policing to ensure that officers have the support they need to respond effectively to violence against women and girl crimes, including more invisible harms such as controlling and coercive behaviour. This forms a key part of our commitment to play a more active role in policing, ensuring officers have the support they need and raising standards across the board to deliver justice for victims. We also recently announced a £53 million funding pot for investment into the Drive project across England and Wales, which will target high-risk, high-harm serial domestic abuse perpetrators to keep victims safe. This involves intense monitoring, disruption tactics, and behavioural interventions to prevent perpetrators from reoffending and to keep victims safe from harm, alongside dedicated IDVA support for those victims. And under Raneem's law, we have embedded domestic abuse specialists into selected 999 control rooms to strengthen police responses from the very first point of contact. I am proud of some of this progress we have made, but I recognise there is much more work to be done. For instance, we know that the current risk landscape is not good enough and that improvements are needed to ensure that all victim vulnerabilities are properly considered, including the needs of older people. One of the first tasks of the National Centre will be to conduct a robust review of risk assessment tools used by forces nationwide, including the DASH model, to ensure they reflect the realities that are actually faced by victims. However, tools alone won't fix this system. To do this, we must look at every stage of the pathway, including initial contact with the police, other agencies, the referral process, and the support that victims receive. We must ensure that when abuse happens, it is responded to by people who understand and care, and we must ensure that risk is properly assessed throughout a victim's journey. We must also ensure that there are services available across the country that are accessible to older people, regardless of where they live. Local join-up is key to ensuring victims are supported at every stage, and this will be further strengthened by the upcoming duty to collaborate provision in the Victims and Prisoners Act. Once implemented, the duty will ensure a more strategic approach to local commissioning in England for victims of violence against women and girls. Local partners, including health services, will be required to collaborate and implement joint strategies that reflect local needs, including those of older people. We look forward to supporting our colleagues at the Ministry of Justice in ensuring that this duty is implemented effectively. Tackling all forms of violence against women and girls is a defining mission of this government, and our goal is ambitious but necessary. And it is my responsibility to ensure that we are using every lever across government to do this work. We will publish our transformative cross-government strategy as soon as possible, and as part of this, we recognise that men, including older men, can also experience abusive and violence against women and girls crimes. That is why we are committed to ensuring male victims and survivors get the support that they need. The strategy will set out commitments for all victims, including men and boys who are victims of abuse. In developing our strategy, we have conducted extensive engagement with sector experts, academics, and frontline services, including focus roundtables on topics including tech-enabled harms, prevention, commissioning, and health, and to ensure that it is informed by the best expertise available. More broadly, we know we need to do more to build victims' confidence in reporting abuse and to ensure that victims' experiences are taken seriously. We know that we cannot do this alone, which is why events like this are so important, and I thank everyone here today who is working to champion the voices of victims of domestic abuse. The challenges we face are significant, but the government is committed to tackling this, and I look forward to continuing to work with Hourglass as our strategy is developed and delivered, and make sure that older victims are included in our shared fight. It was my experience working on the front line for many, many years that highlighted to me the discrepancy in how services, with good intention, are designed largely for families with children, younger families with children. And this has left many in our country feeling as if those domestic abuse services are not for them, and that their abuse isn't domestic abuse. That is something that we absolutely have to change, and we look forward to working with brilliant organisations like yours to make sure that happens.
Thank you very much, Minister. I mean, I know it's virtual, but you could see the little applause,
I
virtual
can.
applause
It's very
happening
nice.
right now. There it is. And some hearts as well. There we go.
Oh,
Thanks. Thanks so much for your comments. And I'm sure, well, we at Hourglass and everyone probably on this call is very much looking forward to the upcoming strategy. Okay. Thank you very much, Minister, for speaking to us today.
Bye.